Hey!
This is JJ and Alex.
I made a name for myself, I told you I won't be denied.
As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome on in, everybody. Thanks for being with us on the program. Thanks for hanging out with us on a Friday, a news dump Friday, JJ. Isn't that what we call it in this business? I will say.
That's the way that I figured Kyle Whittingham would go out. I would expect no less. No press conference, no frills, no party, no balloons. Friday news dump.
Oh, there's party and balloons. Just none of us are invited.
That's fine.
That's okay. But
I can't believe.
But hey, PK, will you invite us, or at least tell us, take some pictures of the party? I don't know. I'm assuming he's going to get invited, right?
I'm sure.
Well, Kyle Whittingham, very specific about the wording, I think, of the presser that went out. Stepping down is the term. The long-tenured head coach of the University of Utah, legend, soon-to-be owner of the statue outside of Rice-Eccles Stadium. Whatever that's going to be, whatever that legacy is going to be, they made it official. He is going to be stepping down. Morgan Scalley will indeed step in as the coach in waiting. He will now be the head coach of Utah football. How are they handling the bowl game situation, JJ?
Kyle Whittingham's going to coach the bowl game.
Absolutely, because he's a grown-up. And
as our own Steve Bartle reported today that there was a team meeting today, and Kyle Whittingham stepped in and announced that he was stepping down, and he pointed to Morgan and says, after the bowl game, this is your coach.
That's crazy.
That's how he addressed the team, and that's how it went down. So
well,
it has finally happened.
It's the news
end of an era.
It's the news we've all been waiting for, and it's the one that we were kind of anticipating at some point. I think in the next 10 days. I was actually thinking, you know what they're going to do? They'll wait till after the bowl game. Why not? Because who cares? You get your team ready for the bowl game. You coach them up. Well, I guess if you had to tell, if your team knew, then you have to tell everybody, right? Because you can't keep that. And maybe that was part of the deal. But the reality is that the legacy that Kyle Whittingham has had at the University of Utah is immeasurable, despite the fact that he has the things that are on the shelf that look like they look like the awards that an award-winning coach and a future Hall of Fame coach like Kyle Whittingham would have. And yet the guy who doesn't like a lot of fanfare in that sense stayed true to what he does, and that is he is definitely going to do it his way. He's going to step down, and then, of course, the speculation comes after that. He didn't say retire.
And Stuart Mandel of The Athletic mentioned that he's not retiring.
Yeah, I think the reason is, too, they had already built in, and this was public knowledge, too.
100%.
He's going to be working for the University of Utah.
Working for the program.
Yeah, he's going to be basically the best consultation, the consultant that you could get that Morgan Scalley could dip into at any given time. And he'll be probably a really big-time arrow in the quiver of the recruiting side of things, in the in bending Mark Harlan's ear about football stuff and where it should land. And so however that's going to look, that's what it's going to be.
As a consultant to Morgan Scalley.
I love it.
As they go through this transition.
And he said he's going to do it for free. Just kidding. Come on. Come on.
You can look it up. You can find out how much he's going to get paid for that.
It's seven figures, but it's just not the one he's doing now.
18 winning seasons in 21 years. It's such a remarkable run. We had a feeling, and we had known that this was imminent. We didn't know when it was going to take place, so it's not a shock that it's happening. It's a shock that the 21-year run is over, because you can't imagine Utah football without Kyle Whittingham at the head of it. You've seen what this program has done over the last 2 decades. And his first win was the Fiesta Bowl in 2004.
Yeah, not a bad way to start.
Think what this program has done. You win the Fiesta Bowl. And obviously his fingerprints were all over that, even though Urban Meyer was the head coach during that 2004 season.
And Urban Meyer even didn't he end up coaching in that game?
He did coach in the game.
Yeah.
Officially, Kyle Whittingham
was
the head coach at that time because Urban had left for Florida. And then you have 2008, which is an incredible, remarkable, sensational season that is going to be tough for any Utah team to duplicate in the future. And then you go through the Pac-12 transition, which was a challenge unlike anything that we've had to see here. and then obviously to win back-to-back Pac-12 championships. What a run for Kyle Whittingham. It's just crazy it's over, but 21 years, it's going to be tough to beat that run.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to get thoughts across the board from all the people we can get a hold of to talk about Kyle Whittingham and the legacy he's leaving and kind of some of the details that surround it and whether or not, the word stepping down implies something else because everybody else looks into that like he's available for the Oklahoma State job. No, that's already been taken up. But that's not really, I think, what the stepping down is, although we can see, who knows. Let's get to the cut right here, top of the program, and then we'll get to our Ute Insider for KSLSports.com, Steve Bartle. Let's jump right to it.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Trajan Wealth brings you this portion of the program. TRAJANwealth.com. That's Trajan Wealth for all your trusted local needs in retirement. And Steve Bartle, our Ute Insider for KSLSports.com, joining us right now. Quite a busy afternoon. Listen, isn't this just what you're looking for? A late afternoon, Friday drop of the news. You can't say we didn't all kind of predict this style of it, and we were all kind of hearing the rumblings. But Steve, now that it's done, where do we go from here when you talk about the legacy that Kyle Whittingham is leaving and then what the state of the Utah program is going forward?
Yeah, I think obviously, take some time. We're all gonna take some time to reflect back on the last 22 years of Kyle Whittingham at the helm of Utah football, and he's 21 years. He's meant everything to the football program. He's brought national notoriety and respect to Utah football, and it's interesting. Maybe the most telling thing of his impact on the University of Utah. You can drive up to campus now and you see buildings and apartment complexes and all types of things. President Randall has plans to continue to develop the University of Utah into more of an on-campus institution, and a lot of credit belongs to Kyle Whittingham and the football program for this evolution of the University of Utah. A lot of success that the football program has led to a lot of important developments for the university as a whole, right? Utah's success on the field led to an invitation to the Pac-12, which obviously brought a lot of connections and relationships with other prominent programs in the West Coast, in the West that really allowed Utah to flourish as a university and as an academic destination. And that's only continued. And so, Kyle Whittingham has done so much. We talk so much about, brand of football and culture and identity and all of those things. And those things are going to continue on with Morgan Scalley at the helm. But what Kyle Whittingham meant to the University of Utah is so much more than just wins and losses. He transformed the university as a whole and allowed it to evolve into what it's becoming now and what it's going through now. And again, a lot of that is due to Whittingham and what he did to lead this football program to the success that he did.
Do you have any insight on when he came to this conclusion that he was going to make this decision, and when and how did he deliver this to the team?
Yeah, from what I've gathered the last couple of weeks, it's kind of been back and forth. If you've been following along, it sounded like, when the season ended, it sounded like everything was pointing towards retirement. A lot of people continue to harp on the fact that they believe that he wanted to continue coaching. And I do think that Kyle wants to continue coaching, or that he wanted to. I still think he has that desire in him. But from what I've gathered, I think the decision came last night. It was finalized last night. And from what I've heard, he informed the team at practice today that, he was stepping down and that Morgan Scalley was going to be the next head coach of Utah football following the bowl game. So that's what I've heard. But the last couple of weeks, like I said, it's been back and forth. He's staying, he's going, he's retiring, he's leaving, he's staying. It's been all types of stuff. And I think that continued up until, things were finalized last night.
Steve, obviously your thoughts kind of go to the long time that we knew who the head coach was going to be at the university going forward. We knew Morgan Scalley was going to be the guy for a long, long time. I wonder what the things are. What would a culture of Morgan Scalley running this team be? Obviously, he's going to be affected a lot by what Kyle Whittingham does. I'm interested to see what he might do differently, but what does he bring to the table, not just being with the program a long time, but what are Utah fans going to get with Morgan Scalley at the head now officially at the University of Utah?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to learn about Morgan as he steps into this role, right? I think a lot of the culture and a lot of the brand of football, I think those things are going to continue on with Scally. You know, the things that Whittingham instilled in this program, the toughness and all of that sort of stuff. I firmly believe that those are elements, distinguishing characteristics of the football program that Morgan wants to continue on at the helm. But I do know that, you know, Morgan wants to make his mark on the program, that he wants to potentially tweak some things and do some things differently, right? You know, I know that recruiting is going to be a major point of emphasis for him. My understanding is he wants to beef up a lot of the recruiting efforts of Utah football. And so I'm interested to see what that looks like and what that actually translates to. I know that he has his own thoughts on what an offense should look like. And I think, you know, this past season was a great season for Utah. And I think that relationship with Jason Beck will be pretty important. But I know that he understands that throwing the ball is pretty impactful in today's game. And it parlays into recruiting success. You know, he's out there traveling to places, talking to recruits. He knows, you know, what these recruits are paying attention to. And even something as simple as throwing the ball a little bit more could lead to changes on that front. But, you know, I think a lot of the defining characteristics of Utah football over the last 2 decades are things that Morgan's going to want to carry on, while certainly, you know, adding his own flavor to all of this as well.
If you look back on the legacy that Kyle Whittingham leaves, what is, as you look back on, I'm sure you're going to be writing about this. What are the things that stand out that he has accomplished that really stick out to you over this time that have left his mark on this program? Probably the most meaningful for fans that they'll always remember.
Yeah, I think, you know, for me, obviously it comes down to, you know, making the most of the resources he had available to him and turning Utah into a power conference contender, right? You know, the decade of football for Utah, as they made the transition to the Pac-12 and seeing the evolution of the program in those 10 years where, you know, it went from bottom of the Pac-12 to the top within those 10, 12 years. And a lot of that is due, frankly, to how stubborn Kyle Whittingham can be, right?
Yeah.
The things that he's stubborn about led to a lot of success, and his consistency and all of those things developed Utah into, you know, a conference title contender. And I think that is such a unique experience for fans to see a program, you know, climb the ranks like Utah did during that time. That's a unique experience to share with a program, to share with a coach. And so, you know, Morgan Scalley, I think, is absolutely the right man to lead Utah into this next era of college athletics and whatever it's going to end up being. But Kyle Whittingham, a lot of Utah fans are going to remember those 10 years, 10, 12, whatever, however many years it was in the Pac-12 really fondly, because we all witnessed a program scale, you know, the mountaintop and get to the top. And I think that's such a unique experience to see it built from ground level to a champion is just something that I think is going to resonate with a lot of fans for years to come.
It's one thing to be the most successful coach in the program's history. There's a lot of legacy there. He would definitely, you know, look at the guys who came before him and give them a lot of credit, and he should. I mean, there's no reason to I mean, you know, the reason that Utah was able to keep stepping up coach after coach and just keep getting better and better, that, you know, demands another legacy right in front of it. Even if it's a short one with Urban Meyer, it still made a massive mark on this program. And so when you look at the long tenure here, and I think that, let me see here. Did he end up, how many, is it 177 is the total, is that the total wins?
177.
177 in the career. 177, I've got it right here. 177 wins and 88 losses, okay? This is a guy who is not just going to go down as one of the best in Utah history. I think he's going to the Collegiate Hall of Fame, and you can't have a career like that without having something like that happen. But in the end, what are the things that now have to happen so that the program can get into 2025 and beyond, which is a wild era that I think there's going to be a part of Kyle Whittingham that he's not going to miss?
Yeah, I think obviously the big thing is just the continued evolution of Utah athletics, of college athletics, embracing what that is going to mean, right? With this new era, as things continue to trend more and more towards a professional model, when you're talking about a super conference and two super leagues or whatever it ends up being, when you're talking about collective bargaining becoming more and more of a prominent talking point in college athletics, with Utah taking on this private equity deal and what that means, I think you're going to need to have a coach that understands the demands and requirements now of being more than just a strong head coach, right? It's going to entail a lot of work beyond the practice field and beyond the facility now, to really make the next era, to really thrive in this next era, because a lot of this is going to come down to financial support and resources. And I think that is an element where Morgan Scally, being younger and being able to connect with younger athletes and people of his age as well, I think that is something that Morgan can take the baton and really it's really why he's the right guy to lead Utah into this next era of college athletics, because he can be that guy that can get in front of people and have a great conversation, strike up a conversation, and just be more of a forward facing type of presence and personality.
I think the transition that has been planned here from Kyle Whittingham to Morgan Scally is brilliant, and I think that it's going to allow for as much of a smooth transition as possible. So much respect for Morgan Scally and what he's done, and he's ready for this situation. And I'm really curious to see what this program looks like under his watch. I'm sure there's a lot of things that won't change, but there are some things that will. But obviously, he's got to make some decisions now that he's going to be the head coach about staffing. Obviously, there's a defensive coordinator position open, Steve, and I'm sure you're going to be all over that.
I mean, it made it sound like he's going to be applying for it. Hey, there's a defensive coordinator.
Well,
position
no. There's plenty of great candidates for that, and so Morgan's got some big decisions coming up. What are some of those decisions, and how much of the staff do you think is going to be retained? What are some of the immediate impact of Morgan taking over going to be in January?
Yeah, I wish I had, the crystal ball to provide some predictions on that, but certainly, starting with the role that he's stepping out of, and that defensive coordinator spot is going to be one that he needs to address early on. And, he's got a staff that are fully bought into, him as the head coach. And he's got, 4 guys in Shaw, Ellis, Powell, and Swan that all have the type of credentials that are worthy of being promoted to defensive coordinator. I know that Swan is, he has experience as a defensive coordinator. He's got an extensive background, at Weber State, where he was involved pretty heavily in game planning. I would look at him as the slight favorite in that race among those 4. But again, all 4 of those guys have the sort of resume and credentials that, if Morgan decides to name any one of them defensive coordinator, Utah fans will feel plenty optimistic about what they'll be able to do in that role. So I think, Scally's got a good good situation on a good problem on his hands there with that defensive coordinator position. And then, beyond that, I'm not too sure. With the rest of the staff, like I mentioned, I know that Jason Beck and him have a pretty good relationship, and the offensive staff, I know this group is really well connected, and so I'll be curious to learn more about that over the next couple of weeks. But the thing that I do know is like I mentioned earlier, I know that recruiting is going to be a major point of emphasis for Scally. It's an area that he wants to really beef up, and so I think that could lead to some changes there, but I don't know anything beyond that. So we'll learn about those things over the next coming weeks. I don't know of anything imminent beyond the choice that he'll have to make at defensive coordinator.
Recruiting outside of the program and also recruiting within the program, as they've been successful recently with the locking down Bird Ficklin. How important was that, and what can we expect internally, Steve, now that business has been settled? Obviously, knowing who your quarterbacks are going to be during this transition is massive.
Yeah, it's huge, right? And that's kind of what this month is all about. This month is all about figuring out, getting a better idea of what your next season's roster is going to look like. So, they're having conversations with guys pretty regularly, who's in, who's out. We've seen, a handful of players, mostly guys that have that served as depth this season, deep depth, right? Scout team guys, even. We've seen a lot of announcements on that front of guys entering the portal. But to get Bird locked in, I think is really significant, because not only do you get a young, promising signal caller, you're hanging on to him, but all indications point towards Devin Dampier returning to the program in 2026 as well. So you get to hang on to your two quarterbacks, where many people thought that was not going to be the case, that Utah was going to have to make a tough choice between one or the other. And it seems like all indications point towards both returning in 2026. That really gives Utah a tremendous starting point in 2026. And it also gives them a huge leg up in 2027 because Bird Ficklin is obviously being viewed as the successor to Dampier when his eligibility runs out after next season. So Utah is feeling really good about that quarterback room, and the rest of this month is going to be about figuring out who are going to be the guys around him and what they need to address in the transfer portal when that opens up next month.
Real quick, Steve. Thanks for being available, first of all, because it's just, I know you guys are going through it.
Yeah.
You're trying to get the digital stuff going. You're also trying to put some articles online, I'm assuming, and just getting at all the angles. And so we appreciate you joining us for a little bit. It wasn't Pete Thamel, was it? Yeah, it was Pete Thamel who tweeted out.
Oh, Stuart Mandel
tweeted out, well, he's not retiring. He's stepping down. And sources say there could be, it was some reference to that there may be opportunities out there.
Could seek other opportunities. In your mind, do you look at that and go, that's absolute garbage, or maybe?
No, I think there is something to that. I think Kyle Whittingham has not fully come to grips with retirement just yet. I think there is still that desire within him to keep coaching. I still think that's something that he's feeling, and maybe eventually he comes to terms with what retirement is actually going to be. But I think as of right now, I think he made the decision that he felt was best, which was stepping down at the very least to allow Morgan to take control as head coach. But I think he's still coming to grips with actually being a retired person. And I think he still has that desire. I think success this season really helped to kind of refuel the batteries a little bit for him. And I think there is still a little bit of desire for him to continue coaching. So I'm curious to see what that could lead to. Maybe it's just a reference to him accepting that advisory role. But there is certainly at least a little part that I've heard that he still wants to continue coaching.
Not that there are any programs that are like this, but listen, if there was anybody in shambles out there, maybe with a huge program in shambles currently, Maybe there's a possibility. I don't know. All right, Steve.
Someone to come clean up that mess?
Yeah. Hey, listen, we'll speculate on that another day. We'll celebrate the career of Kyle Whittingham the rest of the time and try to figure out what else is there. Steve, thanks for hanging out with us so long, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Steve.
Absolutely.
Great work.
Steve Bartle, Ute Insider, KSLSports.com. Go over to KSLSports.com. You can read up on all the stuff that all of our guys are diving into, of course, because what better way to spend a Friday afternoon than combing through all of the whatnot of Kyle Whittingham's career. We knew it was coming, but Kyle Whittingham stepping down as the Utah head coach. Morgan Scalley enters as the head coach at the University of Utah. Although that announcement hasn't officially been made, I'm sure we'll get the impending press conference sometime during January. So
that was always the plan.
Yeah, look, and you just have to figure out.
I mean, the boss said today he's your new boss after the bowl game.
Right,
So
I get it.
That decision has clearly been made.
And when the school has that first press conference, the thing we do know about Morgan, exactly what Steve said, tons of energy and excitement and front-facing personality on that guy. So
I'm very interested to see what that new energy brings to this program with the same culture. It's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, or if he tightens up those lips. We'll see. All right, taking a break here. We'll come back. We got more to go around the corner. We're chatting all things about Kyle Whittingham's, stepping down. Don't call it retirement.
No.
Don't call it a retirement. We'll come back. Christian Cox. He played for Kyle Whittingham. Spent some time with the coach. We're going to talk to him, and we're going to talk about what the legacy of Kyle Whittingham is for guys who were inside that program for a time as well. Stay with us, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
When TV and radio collide.
Love it.
Wow. This is what you get. You're listening to JJ and Alex.
Don't touch that dial.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody, into what has become a very busy Friday afternoon version of the JJ and Alex program. And it's weird because we only have short time today because, we're anticipating the Jazz tipping off tonight at 6 o'clock right here on this radio
Pre-game
dial.
show starts at 5. We'll take you right up there with this story.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's just I was telling Alex Napolis, our producer, man, this is kind of a bummer of a day to only have 2/3 of a show because you just want to dive in. You want everybody to be able to honor their old coach or to speak to the guy that was their employer or to talk about the guy that has meant so much to this program at the University of Utah. But it's a shortened show today, and we're going to have, of course, like we said, one of those very people on the program right now. He's joining us over the telephone. We already got to chat once this week at the Player of the Week Awards here at Broadcast House, and Christian Cox, former defensive great at the University of Utah, joins us on the program. What's up, Christian? Thanks for hanging out this week, man.
Hey, Alex. Hey, JJ.
What is up?
Good to hear you guys' lovely voices. Very
nice.
Strange day. Let's call it that, what it is.
Yeah. Strange day is an interesting way to put it because everybody was waiting for this moment to be able to happen, or not to be able to happen, but we were anticipating something like this. We were just wondering if it was going to be 26, 27, or maybe 28. But I guess is the timing when you see that and you go, oh, it really is happening. What were your initial thoughts as soon as they said he was stepping down?
I was kind of surprised. I think we hadn't heard anything for a while, and obviously there's some things going on as you look at the letter that he wrote. And again, he's stepping down or retiring. I think my real feelings, and I'm it's mixed, I'm sure, across the fan base, is just sad, really. And I understand that, all good books have to come to an end. And I was hopeful there was just one. I only wanted one more chapter. I wanted 2026. And that's a selfish ask, and it just felt like with the roster returning, and I understand there's pressure with, Morgan deserves his time in the sun, and, there's a lot of movement in the college space with coaches and getting paid a grundle of money because they deserve it, and Kyle is up there with the legends of, the greatest coaches to come out of the state. You look at the Ron McBrides, the Urban Meyers, the Lavelle Edwards type coaches, and what you do in a football career to stay somewhere as consistent for 21 years and guiding them from a WAC to the Mountain West to the Pac-12 to the Big 12, and obviously last season wasn't what anyone wanted, and he came back and was just right there. And I think that's the tough part is Kyle's a deep, deep competitor and took this university forward into the future, and you knew it would end, or you knew it would come to a close. And I think the abruptness, and there's no good time to leave your employer or move on and close the book. But I think just the way it is today, and going to the Vegas Bowl and playing Nebraska, and it just kind of stinks. And it's maybe purposeful that it's on a Friday so people can't talk a lot about it.
You don't think that's a
100%.
coincidence?
100%.
On a 2 o'clock or 2, like East Coast is 4 p.m. And
Christian, you spend enough time in this business to know what a Friday news dump is, and that's what this is.
I guess, yeah, sure. But it's, I don't know. I'm sad. I think anyone else is, and I could go on for, hours on, what he's meant to me, and not just me, but so many other people that he's just impacted. And I think I wanted just one more book, one more chapter. And it is interesting with the timing of $500 million in private equity money.
Yeah.
That was earlier this week to ending of why now. And there's obviously conversations we don't know that are having behind closed doors. And there's a lot of things that I'm privy to that went on during the transition of the Pac-12 that no fan knows. And it's what's complicated about this college football business is there's a lot of moving parts and politics and moving things around. And I just think Kyle did it the right way. And he built an organization from basically nearly scratch. He took fundamental parts, but he changed our state. He changed this public university. And the data point I'd point everyone back to is go look what happened at the University of Tennessee once Philip Fulmer left after they won a national championship. And that is what I don't want to have happen. And that's always been my fear, is when the greats leave, there's a sag. And I'm not saying this will sag for Morgan, but it's always challenging. Go look at post Lavelle. There's just always a challenge. And I think it's just a time to honor what he did and how consistent, and the coaches he rose up through him, and the coaches that were born out of him, the coaching tree. And I just, bittersweet on a Friday, but I understand the business. But I don't like this phrase. Step down isn't I'm retiring. I'm sailing off into the sunset. I'm out of here. I'm done. I love the man. He's tough as nails, diehard competitor, changed my life. And I'm going to be a little sad over the weekend, and that's okay.
Well, you bring up a great point that you can't take what he has done for granted. Because he was there, Christian, we always just expected Utah to be great. We always expected Utah to be great on defense, and they'd figure it out on offense. The great years, they would have some guys on offense that made it go. Other years, they just figure out a way to win close games. But you always knew who Utah was, and you can't take that for granted. And now I know that Morgan comes from the same culture, but you cannot just take for granted that because Kyle is and this transition is going, that things are just going to be the way they always were. So just how incredible was it, the consistency that he was able to deliver, and how did he do it? Because you had a front row seat.
Yeah, listen, my wife talks about this all the time. There's something written above, a workout area in our house. It's like consistency equals success. There really is no secret for it. And I think everyone wants flash in the pan. And it's hard to make yourself do things you don't want to do. It's hard to show up to your 6:30 a.m. workout. It's tough to do that, not only just weeks at a time, but years at a time. And he did it for 20, 30, 40 years. And if there's one thing I got to witness, when I was there, I knew exactly what time he was up on the Stairmaster doing a crossword puzzle with a white towel over his shoulders as a player. And it was always right before his media stuff or right before we go hit the ground. And so when you talk about rhythm and life and being consistent at certain things, it's hard to do anything, consistently over and over, because it's just not sexy. It's not fun. But as I look at how he ran the program, and even when I transitioned, it was briefly, it was just a season in the NFL watching the Patriots organization. When I transitioned up and I looked around and I was in that organization, there wasn't a massive jump that I thought I would be walking into, like a doctor's office, PhD, new level. It was like what Utah was doing in terms of structure and practice and what was required physically already prepared you for the NFL. And that's why you see so many guys that have transitioned up into the league, and a lot of, whether it's ex-players or ex-coaches who've moved up, it's because they grounded out at Utah, because the Utah way will synthesize the basically the weak out, because if you don't, you don't adapt and become stronger. And that's why, the Eric Weddles and the Paul Krugers and the Sean Smiths and the many other, the Jalen Johnsons, the many other great players that have come through the program. And there's hundreds. The Luther Ellises of the world, it's because they got prepared as a young college kid through a difficult program. And that's why I think Utahns at heart, like true Utah fans and even BYU fans, even have respect for Kyle.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt.
Because of the execution and delivery over and over and over again. And I think that's what, not saying Morgan can't, and I'm not saying, and again, if you look at Morgan's contract, actually, he's the coach in waiting. He will be it. But it doesn't say, it still gives them the chance to go look around. They would be absolutely foolish to do that. This isn't Morgan's call, and this isn't head coach talking about the future with Morgan, but that is what folks don't understand is sans Kyle, you're going to miss a pillar, and leaders are the difference. Go look at every successful organization. And so the harsh reality of life is there's times and seasons, and there's change. And change is hard. It may work out fine, but that was probably one of the most consistent, stalwart man who everything he said he actually did. And as I've gotten older in life, there's just not a lot of people like that exist, that say the things and then do them. And he did it at a high level.
Well, we get to learn from Kyle Whittingham because of all the years that you were able to learn the stuff that you did, and you bring it to our shows and all the appearances that you've ever made. And so that's a huge part of it. And so we appreciate you dipping in, Christian, on your career as a player for Kyle, and also watching the whole thing unfold over the last 21 years. It's been really, really fun. So thanks for hanging out with us today, man. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks, Alex.
There you go.
Thanks, Christian.
Christian Cox. I mean, it's like someone passed away for Christian.
Yeah,
You
talk to former players, and I should also mention it's a tough day for a lot of these former players.
Yeah.
Eddie White passed away, former Utah running back, and I know that a lot of these guys, we reached out to some guys and they just couldn't do the show today because they're heartbroken about the loss of one of their former teammates.
Right, they got the news today.
Utah, and you can mock this or make fun of it if you don't love Utah all you want, but Utah really lives the motto that they are family. They do. And so you sense that with Christian today. It does feel that way. You're absolutely right.
Let's take a break. Before we do, I want to remind you, Hans and Scotty are going to be on Tuesday at My Hearing Centers in Sandy, 8941 South, 700 East. Next is going to join us David James, of course, DJ and PK in the mornings. He's covered a few Kyle Whittingham press conferences, games, etc. We'll get the full view picture from the media side that David James has been able to be a part of, and we appreciate him coming on for a second time today on the station. So stay with us, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest name.
You're locked into JJ and Alex. With the insight and analysis on the teams you can't live without. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Oh, nostalgic song on a Friday afternoon. Alex Napolis, our producer, tears streaming down his face. Just kidding. He has no soul. He breaks news. That's all he does.
It's not the end of the show. It's just the end of an era up on the hill.
There you go. Kyle Whittingham stepping down officially. The announcement made today by the University of Utah. The rest of all the dominoes that are going to fall after that, including the almost certain putting into place the coach in waiting, Morgan Scalley, that all comes later. We celebrate, of course, the career that Kyle Whittingham has, and of course we speculate on what it means if whether or not he is actually done or not. Somebody jumping in who knows quite a bit about this guy and has covered maybe more extensively than anybody in this market. He's David James, host of DJ and PK, of course. We were just looking at some of these old pictures, DJ, and I'm like, Kyle looks like a totally different guy now. I mean, you would 21 years later, but like Well, first he still looks like Kyle Whittingham, but man, he started this gig and he's kind of young when he got going. What do you remember about him starting up when he was officially the head coach after Urban Meyer?
Well, I remember stuff about him starting up before that. It's been his goal for a long time. For a while, we were doing an hour of sports on Saturday night before we got an outdoor show. And the second half hour was college football, and we rotated an ex-Utah player and coach and an ex-BYU player and coach through. And the current coaches obviously could only do it after home games. They played a lot of day games in that era. And so I called Kyle to ask if he would do it, and he paused. He said, well, I'm interested, but I have to ask Mac. And I said, well, tell him you want to be a head coach when you grow up and you need to polish your media skills and you shouldn't stand in your way. And Kyle burst out laughing because that's exactly what he was thinking. He did not end up a head coach by accident. He aimed for it for a long time. The other memory I have is that I went up to a practice when you could go to practice and there was no fence and no windscreen and you could stand on the sideline. And furthermore, an assistant coach might talk to you while practice was going on.
Wow.
Unthinkable now. Those were the before times.
That'd be your last practice today.
And the coach who talked to me was Kyle. And it was 2004, and they were undefeated and rolling. And I'm standing on the sideline, and he is kneeling. And you guys have been up to practice. We were right where the practice field is now. We were on the east side facing west. And Urban was walking down the sideline on the other side of the field, right by the fence, right next to the cemetery. And Kyle, the play was off to my left, and Kyle was off to my left. And so they're going through whatever scrimmage and whatever practice, running their play 11v11 at that point. And Kyle, looking at it, but not out in the middle of the field, on the sideline, kind of crouched down, never turns his head to me and goes, hey, DJ, what do you hear about coaching jobs in the state of Utah? Is one going to be open? And I was like, no, all three are going to be open. I think you can get any of them, but I don't know. And he just kind of went, huh, and then didn't say anything. And of course, we famously know he went back and forth between Utah and BYU and ended up taking the Utes. So, I mean, those are some of the memories. And, I definitely thought about both those things today. I thought the thing today, and Stuart Mandel jumped all over this, and I suspect that Kyle took his call. I mean, Kyle's phone has got to be blowing up. And I texted Kyle, but I haven't heard anything back. But I'm sure his phone is blowing up. This was much anticipated. I heard Steve Bartle on about an hour ago, and he was talking about, the back and the forth and thought it was going to go. Listen, let's full transparency, guys. There were a lot of jokes made at a very high volume in the bullpen outside our studio last week about a Friday news dump. We all knew the contract and it could come, and Friday. And Kyle was like John Stockton. He wasn't going to want to do a lot, if any, in media. So it had Friday news dump written all over it. There was a lot of speculation about it yesterday. And I was on with Scotty G today, and he was down in Nephi, and he said, I don't know what you had at your lunch, but I had a better lunch. You may have had better food, but I had a better conversation.
No.
I was told, and you can go back and listen, I said, the person I had lunch with said, it's going to happen this afternoon. I'm like, well, I don't want to get in front of that train because if Kyle changes his mind, everything changes, and you don't want to be wrong on a story like this. So just let Kyle do what he did. And the guy nodded and said, okay, but be ready this afternoon. Like, okay. And apparently the delay that we over this past week has been other people getting contracts signed. Assistant coaches, moving Morgan into place. I get not announcing everything at once. Give one person their moment in the spotlight, then wait, switch gears, let the next person have the moment in the spotlight. So I get not announcing a new head coach right now. But I was told there were contracts being negotiated as recently as yesterday. So whether that's for a new defensive coordinator or a new head coach or a new, whatever, there you go. And I thought Stuart Mandel, what he jumped on was that Kyle, and that statement from the U that was all seen on social media, the word retire is nowhere in there.
Yep, that's a great point.
Stepping down. And it's time. Here's another behind-the-scenes moment. So about 4 years ago, the previous TV station I worked at did a show that involved NIL when that was brand new. And so to go up and pitch the advertisers that they had to advertise with the station and do NIL, and the players would show up and get the NIL. And so the pitch to the advertisers so that Kyle could participate and say, this is why it's necessary. This is where college football is going, was done in the building. And Kyle would just go into the theater that's, you guys been in to do interviews, it seats like 120 people so you can get all the players in there if they need to get them all together for a team meeting. And we're in that theater, and Kyle would come down the aisle, and then he would pitch and would say, it's not long before the top 25 teams are going to be the top 25 teams in terms of NIL. Mm-hmm. Number 1, 2, and 3 are going to be number 1, 2, and 3, and right down the list, all the way through the top 25. I've heard him say that 20 times, and he says it with a passion and a ferocity. It's like, this is how it is. Don't argue with me. Argue with me about something else. Not this. Even 2-point conversion. Not this. And so this is going to be a tough time for Utah. There are schools with a lot of money. There's interesting. One of the things I've been told about NIL, and I hadn't really considered this, but the names of the building at BYU can be named after people, and they're not so much named after donors because the church pays for the buildings. Whereas a lot of public schools have to go to donors and get buildings built, and now you go back to the donors and you ask for more NIL, and you ask for it every year. It's exhausting. How much more are the Eccles and the Huntsmans and the Garfs? How much are they supposed to give? And it's those 3 at Utah, but, it's 3 boosters at every school across the country. How much more are they supposed to give? There's some schools that are in a tougher spot today than they were 10 years ago because the game has changed. So maybe it is time for him to step down, let someone else do it. I don't think, and maybe he will just go to Hawaii and we'll never hear from him again. Could be. I doubt it.
Yeah.
And it'll be really interesting to see what he does. There was a time that I talked to him that he wanted to coach in the NFL. Obviously, his dad did. That's fact, right? He's with the Raiders. And obviously, his son does. He's with the Chiefs and working for Andy Reid, and Kyle's tight with Andy. And they go back to see the kid, and he talks football with Andy every year. And so, and maybe there's something else. I mean, how many scouts and GMs have been through Utah over the years? Kyle probably has a relationship with just about everybody.
Yeah, Spagnuolo's he's struggling right now, right?
Well, and it could be anything from assistant coach to analyst to
consultant.
I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Right? Kyle's a great talent evaluator. If you put him in the front office, do something different. I think the fire still burns, but maybe it's time for a different challenge. And maybe the challenge is fundraise to you and make sure Morgan has the money he needs because, Morgan played for him, coached for him. Kyle doesn't want to see what he built, fall apart. I can tell you 100% Lavelle didn't, and it bothered Lavelle. And I talked to Lavelle right before Bronco was hired, and Lavelle just couldn't wait for that program to get back on his feet. He built it. He didn't want to see it fall apart. And I think most coaches who build a program feel that way. Lavelle did. I think Kyle does. And, probably on down the line to a bunch of other coaches in a bunch of other decades or centuries. So there you go. Yes, I think many things. I can't wait to see what Kyle does next. I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, we're all going to be watching that. One more real quick for you, DJ. We have the pleasure of being around these coaches and athletes that are incredible and accomplish great things. And I love watching how they work and how they operate. And you shared some great behind-the-scenes stories about Kyle and you. What did you learn about him watching him operate that made him great?
Oh, easy. And this is such a cliche because everybody says he's the most competitive person I have ever met. Wants to beat him in cheer. But once Kyle was lamenting something that got away, and I'm like, Kyle, you don't have a lot to prove. Well, what does it matter? The Fiesta Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, you outkicked your coverage, and I'm looking at him, and like he was eating a sandwich at the time, and it looked like he was going to throw it up. What does it matter? What does it matter? I mean, he didn't yell at me, but the flash in his eyes, I'm like, wow, it burns real deep in this guy. It burns. And I mean, we all know people who are competitive and who have, I'm sure I'm in a game when I was younger me, I reacted poorly to something. You all have probably reacted poorly to something at some point in our teens or 20s. And, he was older and he learned how to control it. But the fact that he got them to the top of the Pac-12 and got them to 4 title games and won 2 of them, went to 2 Rose Bowls, that flash in his eyes, he was going to bleep and do it. Yeah. Don't tell me it doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, he could have taken it as a compliment. Hey, thanks, DJ. I'm glad I've earned your respect with the way I've coached, the games I've won, and And it was like, no, the next mountain is there, and I'm climbing it.
Yeah.
Which is why when I see the word stepping down, I don't think that's an accident.
Right.
Bronco Mendenhall was on with us a couple weeks ago and talked about a book he read that really influenced him called The Second Mountain. And that coaches who get to that mountaintop in their 40s or 50s, what do you do for the rest of your life? And Kyle is 66 and apparently in good health, and what does he want to do? What does he want to accomplish? And that flash in his eyes, and I'm like, you don't have to win the Pac-12. We know you're a good coach. And then you get the flash in his eyes. I mean, he sets a goal. He wants it badly. He wants to compete to get to the goal. So it's just a question of what goal is he going to set next, and then it'll be fun to watch him try to accomplish it.
DJ, we appreciate it. Thanks for the stories. Yep. Thanks for the insights. As always, DJ and PK, of course, every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the KSL Sports Zone. Have a good weekend, man.
Thanks, DJ.
Talk to you.
There you go. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back before we do. It's a Win Ticket Wednesday coming up next Wednesday. If you go to KSLSports.com and check out what you can win, Youngblood Idols, the World Tour at the UCCU Center in Orem on May 18th of 2026. You can get those tickets at Live Nation today, or just listen all day long on Wednesday to win them. Stay right here with us. We've got more around the corner. Trevor Riley's going to join us next on the program.
Can't wait for this.
Former Utah defensive end. He has thoughts on everything. I think this would be a fiery one for him as well. We'll dip in with Trevor Riley. Coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.